Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we start few new suttas as we planned before. They are small suttas. I think we have 7 to 8 small suttas, which are quite similar. So therefore, we'll finish them quickly, so we can get more habit in reading, because they have a similar pattern, but the gatha will be a little bit different. And also, sorry for that, I was unable to complete the vocabulary of the gatha. I did it today morning, because to be true, these days we have in Sinhalese we have another fundamentals lectures in Sinhala language. So all the 5 days per the week. So I have to prepare all my handouts in Sinhalese. So it takes some time. So it was like a little bit a tight schedule these days I have. So anyway, we continue with the Sariputta Sutta. This comes in the third Vagga, Nanda Vagga, Sariputta Sutta. Nanda Vagga Sariputta Sutta. Short sutta with a gatha. Anyone is willing to translate? Volunteer? Could please anyone translate?
Okay, I'll do it, Bante. Hi, Bante. May I do it?
Okay. Yes, sure. Sadhu.
Oh, okay. So okay. Ewang me sutang ekang samayang pagkawa sawatiyang viharati chetavane anatapindikasa arame. So this was heard by me one time. The Blessed One was dwelling in Chetavana Anathapindikas monastery near Savatthi. Tenako panasamayena ayasma Sariputto Bhagavato Avidure Niseno Hoti Panlangkang Abuchito Uchukayang Panidaya Parimukhang Sate Upatapitoa. At the time, the Venerable Sariputta was sitting near the Blessed One, having sat cross-legged, having kept the body straight, having put forth mindfulness in front. Adasako Bhagawa Ayasmantang Sariputang Avidure Nisenang Palankang Abuchito Ujungkayang Panidaya Parimukhang Saten Upatapeto. The Blessed One saw the Venerable Sariputta, who was sitting near, having sat cross-legged, having kept the body straight, having put forth mindfulness in front. Atako Bhagawa Etamantang Viditoa Tayang Vela Yang Imang Udanang Unadesi. Then the Blessed One, having known this meaning, at the time uttered this utterance. So here the meaning of the etam matang vidito, according to the commentary, and what it means is etamatanti etang terasa anenja samadhi yogena tadipawapatiyaja kenachi akampiniyata sangkatang atang sapakarato viditoa Tadatta Vibawanang Imang Udanang Udanesi. So what it means is that the Blessed One, having known by all manners the meaning which is not being shakable by anything, because of attaining such state and of the connection of imperturbable concentration, which is the Arupa Vajra Jhana of the Venerable Sariputta. So that's why the Blessed One uttered this utterance, which is the explanation of this meaning. So now we go to the Gatha. Yathapi Upapato Selo Achalo Supatitito Ewang Mohakaya Beku Papato Wana Vidati. And what it means is just like a rocky mountain is firmly established, not shaken. The monk, because of the destruction of ignorance, does not tremble, thus, just like the mountain.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much. Very nicely
Thank you,
done.
Bhante.
I think everyone got the meaning very clearly, right? Oh, it's a sutta which explains about the unshakable quality of Venerable Sariputta, and the translation was done very clearly. I think everyone had a clear understanding about it. So if we go just to few grammatical points, which are quite we have already discussed. So eva me sutang, thus we have heard, I have heard. So one time the Blessed One was living. Ekam samayam bhagava savatyang vihrati jetwani anadapindika sarami. I think everyone can understand this. Tena kopana samayena, right? This is instrumental of time. Tena kopana samayena. Ayasma Sariputto Bhagavato Aviduro Nisinno Hoti. So this is the Venerable Sariputta was sitting near to Buddha, near to the Blessed One. How he was sitting? Pallankang Abhujitva, having made a cross, having made cross-leg posture, like having a sitting in a cross-leg meditation posture. Ujung Kayang Panidaya. So having kept the body straight. Just give me 1 minute. Terus sana one. Okay. Mam panti gini kian. So then at that time Venerable Sariputta was so he was having kept the body straight, and also Parimukan Sating Upattapetva, having established this mindfulness in front. Parimukang Sating Upattapetva. Then these are all tirans, Abhujitva, Panidaya, Upattapetva. This is the verb, Nisinno Hoti. Nisinno Hoti. So Abhujitva, Pallankang. So Panidaya, what did he kept straight? Ujung Kayang, the body straight, he kept the body straight. Parimukang Sating Upattapetva. So having established Sati, Parimukang, in front. So then what happens in the next sentence? Venerable Sariputta becomes the object of Buddha. Buddha is seen. So in this sentence, Sariputta was the subject. Now in this sentence, he becomes the object. So what happens? The entire nouns connected to him would turn into an accusative case. Others will remain as it is. Addasako Bhagava, the Blessed One, so whom? Ayasma become Ayasmantang, right? Because this was subject, so it's nominative case. Here it's accusative case. Sariputto become Sariputtang. Avidure Nisinno become Nisinnam, right? So here the Bhagavato is missing because in the first phrase it was telling that he was sitting close to Buddha, and here the Buddha has become the subject. So somehow they have omitted the Bhagavato part. Addasago Bhagava Ayasmantan Sariputtang Avidure Nisinna, sitting close to him. Now Bhagava becomes the subject. The remaining are the same. Pallankang Abhujitva, Ujung Kayam Panidahaya, Parimukan Sating Upattam. Because Pallankang is connected to Abhujitva. Ujung Kayang is to Panidaya. Parimukang Sating is to Upattapetva. So they don't change. So these gerunds, infinitives, they have their own governing strength. Then Atako Bhagava Etamatang Viditva Thayang Velayang Imang Udanang Udasisi. Then the Blessed One, having known this meaning, uttered this utterance. So when we have to go, I think as Dr. Ryan also translated, we have to go to the Attakatha. So since after this, I'll be referring to this part in all the Attakathas. Etamattanti. So what is the etamattang according to this context? Etang Therassa Aninja Samadhi Yogena Thadi Bhava Patya Cha Kenachi Accompaniya Ta Sankhatang Attang Sabbhakarato Viditva. So this is what he knew, Etamattang Viditva. Right? This is what he understood.
No, I don't think. I think we lost a moment.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. First, also, I would like to inform that I heard our sister Indri, who was a participant of this class, is contracted with COVID-19 with her mother. So, and mother is in IC in a little bit critical condition. So, we also wish her soon quick recovery, both of them, with the merit that we gain by these discussions, studying Dhamma. We sincerely hope that may she recover soon and be able to practice Dhamma as before. So also send your metta to her and her mother, to her family. So today we are supposed to study, I think we studied, Dr. Ryan explained about the Sariputta Sutta. And also, I think we finished the translation and also the brief explanation about the sutta. So today, I think we left in the Gatha part. Gatha is to be explained. I think everything was clearly explained, and while we were doing the Gatha, the electricity went off. So we will.
Oh, Pandit?
Yeah.
I think the other kata there, Itamandam Veditawa, they're not finished yet.
Ayatamanta Vidya Vidin, right?
Yeah.
So I have a problem. This Zoom tab, it doesn't go up. You cannot see the tabs actually. It's covering my. I don't know what is happening.
Sorry, what happened there?
The Zoom tab, there's a Zoom tab like participants, share script. It has come down and I cannot go to the, it covers my upper part of the computer. So I cannot go and click the
You cannot share
part.
or things like that. Oh.
Do you know how to get rid of this?
Uh,
Normally it goes naturally, right?
yeah, Pandit. That's very strange.
It says, I don't know what is happening. Okay. I hope you can see the screen.
Yeah, we can.
So we were here, right? Etamattanti. Etamattanti etang teras. So we stop here. Etamattan imang etamattan viditva imang udanang udanesi. I think Dr. Ryan also translated this. We'll just analyze the etamattan. What does it mean? Etang attang, right? Etang attang. So etang is here. You can see attang is here, right? Etang attang. Attang. Terassa ananja samadhi yogena. Hello. Terassa ananja samadhi yogena. Thadi bhava patyacha. So kenachi accompaniya tha sankhatang attang. So the main meaning of this, what Buddha understood, what accompaniya sankhatang attang. His nature of not shaking, not trembling, like not being shaken by whatever it is. Like they always remain as they are. They don't. Their natural inside qualities of the mind are not affected by outside whatever object it comes. Accompanyata sankhatang attang. So why is this unshakable quality? This chair says, what does this chair says? Kenachi accompany. That means by whatever. But whatever incident, they are unshakable, we can call. And this chair indicates that there are two reasons for this. What is this? Ananja samadhi yogena, that is one reason. Thadi bhava patyaj. So thadi bhava patya means that is a quality of an arahant. Thadi. Thadi means it comes from thadi. The word is thadi. Thadi tadi, because thadi soti tadi. He always remains as he is. Arahant before now, Arahant is in a natural, normal state, and suddenly he understands his kuti is broken. His robes have been stolen. So what happens to normal people? We get upset, we get sad, we get angry. But Arahant, before the stealing and after the stealing, his mind is not affected by the incident. That is what mean by thadi. Thadiso means he. Thadi, normally we say thadiso. Thadiso means he's such. He's such. So before the incident and after the incident, he remains the same. He remains the same after the incident as he was before whatever happened. So that is what means thadi. So this thadi quality comes, complete thadi quality comes to arahants. It comes to arahants. So there's another similar word for thadi, which is not similar, which goes very close with thadi. Is one of their qualities is chalangupekka. Chalangupekka means cha anga. Chala means 6. La is inserted, right? Chalanga, 6-fold upekka. Here upekka doesn't mean the vedana. Here upekka means the wisdom. Wisdom. So they are very neutral in all the 6 sense doors. They are neutral in all the 6 sense doors. So that is called chalangupekha. So that is also a little bit similar to thadi. And there was a discussion in the Kathavattu. Some would say chalangupekha rises all the time to arahants. Theravadians' idea is this chalangupekka doesn't mean that all the upekha, wisdom, arises in 6 sense doors all the time. Whatever object comes, they are possible. The possibility is that they remain wise. They deal with it wisely. Wisely means here. Wisely means like not shaking. They remain as they are. Then Ananja Samadhi Yogena. Ananja Samadhi means Arupavachara Samadhi. It is not unshaken Samadhi. Unshaken here have few meanings. It's very far away from the defilements, not like the Rupavachara Samadhi. Rupavachara Samadhi is little bit closer compared to the Arupavachara Samadhi. Ananja Samadhi is very far away. And also the Theravadians hold the idea that Arupavachara Samadhi is cannot be affected by the five sense objects. Five sense objects. It is mentioned in the text that sound is like a thorn. You know, thorn is like a something which picks you, like which is in the trees. Thorns, any thorn. So it's like a thorn. So it breaks the Patamajjhana. Sound is very destructive to the jhana. One may wake up because of some sound. So for the second jhana, much bigger sound. Even in the fourth jhana, someone can break the concentration and come out of the jhana. They start to focus on the new object. But it is mentioned in the Theravada text that Arupavachara Samadhi cannot be interrupted by any of the five sense doors. Any of the five sense doors. It seems like even you touch someone, one who is in the Arupavachara Samadhi, he doesn't feel it. He doesn't feel it means you cannot wake him up. You cannot wake him up. But it's not Nirodha Samapatti. The mind is working, but mind is very fixed on the object. So it's another way of mentioning Ananja Samadhi, like cannot be interrupted, but whatever means five sense doors. But I'm unable to. So it indicates the five senses. So I took the extreme example of the touch. Sound, we can understand, but what happens if someone comes and pushes him, someone comes and throws him, makes him unstable? Maybe at that time he may wake up. It's like just a mere touch or some coldness, heat that affects his body. He may not, maybe that's what the Theravadins are talking. He may not be, his samadhi is not interrupted. If someone pushes him and makes him fall down, maybe I feel like maybe he must wake up. So anyway, so the Theras accompany unshakable quality has been explained in two ways because of his Tadi nature, and also at that time he was involved in Arupavachara Samadhi. So that is the meaning. Sabbakarato viditva, having known it completely. Tadatta vibhavanam. Vibhavana means to elaborate, to show. What is that tadatta? So tadatta means tang atta, right? Tadatta. So if we divide this part, it comes as tad. In Pali, you will call it tang. The traditional grammarian, the philologists will call it tad because it's tad in Sanskrit. So tadatta means, tad means refers to that. What is that? This meaning. What is the meaning? His unshakable quality due to Tadi and due to endowed with Arupavachara Samadhi. To show that Tadatta Vibhavanam, Imam Udanam Udan. He uttered this utterance which explains about this meaning. What was the meaning? That he is the Thera, the Sariputta was unshakable due to two reasons. Right? So this is the meaning that this part elaborates. So before I go to the Gatha, if you have any things regarding this sentence, this paragraph, you can ask, because this is also something quite deep.
Yes, Bhante.
Yes, Dr.
Yes, I have a question about the formation of the word Tadibhava. So here you said Tadi, Tadi, so it's the long E, but in the compound it's Tadi. So how does that becoming like that? Okay.
Yeah. So there is a rule that sometimes when in compounds and also in Tadita, sometimes the long vowel becomes short. It's a You can see this in the Nirutti Deepani. If I remember, Nirutti Deepani, I think the end of the Sandhi chapter, Rasabha or something like that. You can check when it gets shortened. Like it happens as a, I don't know the reason for that, but it has occurred within samasa and also within some taditas. We can see that the shortening of. Wait,
So Bande,
for example, if you take this example, yeah.
like,
For example, yeah.
like we see there's another word like panya want.
Right. Panya one. Yeah. Panya one. Panya one
Yeah.
doesn't change.
No. Panya want to change. Actually, it's panya plus want. But when we make a panya want, this
Yes,
the noun
exactly.
becomes short.
Yes, exactly. This is what we are talking. Yeah, thank you, Sally. Panyavanti is a good example. Anagami magga. Anagami is longing. But when you count the compound, you can check in the books. Mostly it's written as anagami magga. This has become shortened. So this is happening in samasa. It happens in tadita also. As Sally said, panya one, right? Panya plus one. So panya one. Another very famous example.
Okay, thank you, Bante. But and then for the word anagami makka, then I
Yeah.
believe the anagami, it's already the tatita. It's the suffix e added in to make it a person. So originally it
Yeah.
is anagami, right? But then in the word tadibawa, here we have two words, tadi and tadi. So we have two Pali words. So how do we know which one it is?
Okay. But when we come
So
to
Bande,
yeah, yes.
so anagami is a Geda word with here because it's na plus a plus root gang and plus in suffix.
Yeah.
We call it a possessive adjective.
Right. So
Yeah, because is the consonant ending, so the na is dropped. That's why the short e become non e, become anagami.
yeah, anagamin, right? You mean?
Yes.
So then because of this, you mean this remains short?
No, I mean when we dropped the na, the consonant na, so the
Yeah, okay, right. It become e. So but this is anagamis magang, right?
Yes, but
So
during the compound, sometimes it becomes short.
yeah. So but Dr. Ryan is asking, Thadi has two words, Thadi and Thadi. I think that is his question. Thadi and Thadi. Short word also can be seen. But normally the word appears as with a long e when we refer to the person. When we refer to the person, it appears in the long e, and then his nature is tadibhava. So your question is like before the compound, should we take the long e or short e? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, so when we see tadibawa, so you said that it can be, so if it's the long e, then you said it's the tadiksa bawa, something like that, right? But then we also have tadi, and tadi has the meaning of such.
Such.
So it's like such state. So when we say tadibawa, it can be such state.
Okay. You mean like it is Tadino Bhava, for example, it becomes Tadi Bhava, or just Tadi.
Yeah.
Tadi Sabhava, something like that. So this second meaning is just the quality of this Tadi.
Yeah.
This one is the person's quality, right? First one.
Yeah.
Right, Hadi is a person who is unshaking. Okay, I'll discuss with my friend and let you know. I'm unable to give exact answer at this moment about this. So thank you for the
Okay.
question. I'll discuss with him and let you know.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Bante.
Any other questions? Okay, so then I think the part is clear. Then we come to the vocabulary. Then this is the Gatha that we are supposed to translate. Yatapi pabbato selo achalo suppatitito evang mohakaya bhikkhu pabbato na vedati. Right? Yatapi as if, pabbato as pabbata means mountain, sela means rock. It shows that the mountain is a rocky mountain, like a rock, not just a soil mountain. So it's a very, very solid one, right? So then achala is, we call not moving, unshakable. Suppatitito means well established. Patitita, suppatitita. Evang, thus. Bhikkhu, monk. Mohakkaya is the nominative noun, destruction of delusion. So this long A indicates either it is nominative plural or ablative singular, right? That is how we understand ending A. So there, when we understand that it cannot be nominative plural because bhikkhu is the subject here, and it's indicated by Veda. So we have to go to the ablative singular. It's not nominative plural, ablative singular. So these are how, when we have problems in decline words, that is how we make the guess. Then pabbato iva. This wa comes from iva. Right? Pabbato nevedati. Doesn't shake like a mountain. So whether how to know whether this is eva or iva. Eva or iva. We have to understand the context. So what the Buddha is saying, he is telling like a mountain which is well established, right? A mountain doesn't shake. A monk, due to the destruction of delusion, a monk, like so it's similar. It's becoming a metaphor. So we can understand. It seems like, okay, unshaking nature is found in a mountain. So according to Buddhism, a monk is very stable in his unshakable when he comes to spiritual qualities. So this seems like a simile. So that's how we guess this is Iva, not Eva. Right? Iva, not Eva. So likewise, in some cases, when we have, otherwise, some would have a question like how to understand whether this is Eva or Eva or some similar. Similarly, there are we can have different alternatives. So how to understand it is just reading the context. That is like, we should have the sense of what does it mean? What does it mean? So how did we get the sense? Because of the story, because of the sutta. So when you read the sutta, when you read the Gatha, we get a sense, maybe this is what the Gatha is indicating. So that's how we get a general idea about the Gatha. Then what happens when we go into detail and how to explain this based on the fundamentals of the teaching, we have to go in detail and discuss according to the commentaries and the ancient interpretation of the Gatha, right? So these are the words. I will repeat again. Yatapi as if, Pabbata is a mountain, Sela is a rocky mountain, like a rock. Better to say it's a rock. Then Achala is unshakable. Suppatitita is well established. Evang is thus. Mohakkaya is because of destruction of moha. Why we got because of? Because it's ablative singular, not nominative plural. Bhikkhu is a monk. Pabbato iva, not eva. Pabbato iva, right? So Pabbato is a mountain. Iva is the like. Na vedati, doesn't shake, right? So this is how we get the. So then we understand this sentence have bhikkhu as a nominative case. This is the verb, right? So here we have pabbata as a nominative case. So Bhikkhu and Pabbata cannot be the same. We can similarize it, like make it similar because of a metaphor, but they are different words. So we understand this is a different sentence, this is a different sentence, right? So sentence means we call it clause. These are different clause. Why it's a different clause? Because of yata. Because it's a relative clause, relative word. So yatha. Sorry. Yathapi selo pabbato. Right. So rock mountain. Achalo hoti. Super titito hoti. Right. So either we just say achalo supatitito hoti, or you can also say achalo hoti supatitito hoti. It doesn't matter. Right. So yatapi as a mountain, rock mountain is unshakable and also well established. Right. So you can omit this hoti and say achalo supatitito hoti or achalo hoti supatitito. It doesn't matter. Then supatitito hoti evang. Evang is a demonstrative noun. So as if, as, and then this is in that manner, like that. So this is the metaphor, like the simile, and this is how he connects it with the real sentence, real incident. Evang, bhikkhu, this is subject, right? Mohakkaya, mohakkaya, because of the destruction of delusion, right? Mohakkaya, evam bhikkhu, thus a monk, due to destruction. Pabbato iva, like a mountain. Na vedati, doesn't shake like a mountain. A mountain doesn't shake because of the wind that comes from all the directions. Likewise, a monk who has attained the highest spiritual qualities, like Arahant, does not shake. So then these are the two sentences: relative clause, demonstrative clause. So then in this demonstrative clause also, we just mention a monk, due to the destruction of delusion, does not shake like a mountain. But this sentence can also be further explained grammatically, right? So what does it mean? Pabbato iva na vedati. Yatha, as if. Pabbato, right? Na vedati, like a mountain doesn't shake, right? Evang bhikkhu mohakkaya na vedati. Na vedati. So why did we brought it again? You can see bhikkhu is nominative case. Pabbato is also nominative case. In this demonstrative sentence itself, the main clause itself, we have two nominative nouns. So two nominative nouns means they are in apposition, samanadhikarana. So they should be referring to the same thing. But here, bhikkhu is monk, pabbato is a mountain. So how they are connected, we might understand there's a simile because of iva. It's iva. So how do we make it more clear in terms of grammar? We have to bring pabbato and this verb pabbata and also then the verb into one sentence. Sometimes there can be a shared object. Sometimes there can be a shared instrument in this kind of a simile. So here the shared word is the verb. Like a mountain doesn't shake, a monk, because of his destruction of moha, doesn't shake. Sometimes in such a simile, there can be shared object, shared instrument, shared dative. So in that case, we have to write them in separate sentences to elaborate it. So how did we write it? Yatha, so as if, because yatha and eva, or yatha and tatha, we can also get tatha. Evang is also possible, right? So as a mountain doesn't shake, In that same manner, a monk, due to destruction of moha, doesn't shake. Right. So this is the thing. So it's the entire gatha is a simile, and also the main clause also have another simile. I think you understand that the entire gatha is a metaphor, and within the main clause we have another metaphor used. So then, to elaborate it grammatically, we write it again like this. Yeah. So this is the basic explanation of the gatha before we go to the commentary. If you have any questions on this. Okay, it's clear, right?
Hi, Bante.
Yes, Dr.
Yeah, so instead of saying using yatha tatha, we can just condense it into the word iwa, right? Bante?
Yes, yes, yes.
So we can just say bhikkhu mohakkaya. How do we say that? So bhikkhu mohakkaya na vedati. How do we say? Oh, I see. So we can say Bappato na vedati iwa bhikkhu mohakkaya na vedati. Can we say something like that?
Can. We can say that. Right. Also, because it's a shared verb, we can also omit the verb, one verb.
Yeah. So that's why. Yeah. Okay.
So it's like a like we can call it like a meaning is brought into one place, like a samasa, like evang and tata is replaced by iva.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bante.
Okay, so we'll go to the gatha. Then here we have etamattanti, etang terasa. We already explained about this etamattang. Here we have it's a easy small paragraph, right? So yata silamayo ek ghana sila pabbato, like a rock mountain. Like ek ghana means it's a one solid mountain, right? There's no holes in it. That's what it means. Ek ghana, there's no holes. Like very solid, strong mountain. Na pansu pabbato. It's not a soil mountain. Na missaka pabbato. So sometimes mountains have rocks and soil both. Here Buddha is talking about a solid rock. It's also called a mountain. So then it is well established, and pakativate hi achalu. It cannot be shaken by normal air. Pakativate. According to the Theravadins, when the world destructs due to the air element, at that time, no mountain can stand the strong wind. So that's why the commentary is saying not vate, pakati vate, by the natural wind that we experience in day-to-day life. A normal storm cannot shake it. Even a hurricane would not be able to take out the rock. But according to the tradition, the world destructing air, which happens every 64 yawns, whatever mountain, nothing can withstand such an air. So that's why the word pakati has been used. Then, so likewise, a person with who has destructed the moha doesn't shake because of loka dammehi na vedati. Right? Loka dammehi na vedana kampati. So mountain is unshakable due to air. Monk is unshakable due to loka dhamma. Loka dhamma, we have 8 loka dhamma, right? We have labha, alabha, gain, loss, yasa, ninda, prasansa, praise, and ninda is insult and praise. Then ninda, prasansa, labha, alabha, yasa, ayasa. We are having retinue and being single, like abandoned by others. Yasa, ayasa. Then sukha, dukkha, happiness and suffering. So these are the 8: gain, loss, praise and disgrace or insult, or reproached by others, like having bad fame. And then we have with being with the retinue, with others, with a group, or being alone, abandoned by others. And then happiness and suffering. So when these 8 comes, even it came to Buddha time to time, because Buddha lived alone in Parileya. It was his own decision to go into the forest and live alone, but that is considered as Ayasa means he was living alone only with the elephant. So there were many reasons for that, but so likewise, it's not everything doesn't happen in the same manner in the world. This is not due to karma actually. Lokadhamma is a natural phenomenon. Everyone has to experience. So when we experience a loss, it's not always because of karma. It's also the natural phenomenon of the world that we are not always gaining. Someone has a very strong karma, like kusala karma, he may get more and more. If you have strong akusalas, he may have more losses. But having losses and gains in the life is a natural thing, regardless of the karma. So then, here, the point I want to emphasize, just one point, mohakkhaya, due to the destruction of moha, right? So this cha, this sentence has cha. This cha, mohassa anavasesas pahana, is ablative singular, due to the complete destruction, removal of moha. Then cha says another meaning. Moha mula kattacha sabba kusalanang pahina sabba kusalo bhikkhu. So either it's due to the destruction of the moha completely, or becoming free from all the akusala. So moha, in this first part, it says about only the destruction of moha, being removal of moha. Here, or removal of all akusala. Why is that? Moha mula katta sabba kusalanam. Sabba kusalanam moha mula katta. Of all the akusala have the nature of having moha as the main reason. Moha as the root cause. All akusalas have moha as the root cause. So then, what does it mean? This it's a very short saying. Moha mula katta sabba kusalana pahina sabba kusalo bhikkhu. Monk who has eradicated all the akusala. Right? So here, the mohakkhaya bhikkhu. Mohakkhaya bhikkhu means it was given in ablative case. Mohakkhaya bhikkhu, mohassa anavasesa pahana bhikkhu. Right? Anavasesa pahana bhikkhu na kampati. Due to the destruction of moha, monk doesn't tremble. Then in the next sentence, it was given with a nominative case explanation. Moha mula katta sabba kusalanam pahina sabba kusalo bhikkhu. I hope you got what I want to say. Is that here the commentary, because the texts have an ablative case word, it has been explained by ablative case word. Then the next explanation, which says that it's an alternative. Here, moha mula katta sabba kusalanam. This ablative is due to all the akusalas have moha as the root cause. Pahina sabba kusalo bhikkhu. The monk who has eradicated all the akusala. So what does it mean? Mohakkhaya is mohakkhaya bhikkhu. Mohassa anavasesa, because of the destruction of moha. And then they are giving another extra explanation. Due to this mohakkhaya, one who has completely eradicated all akusala. Right? So this second explanation ending in nominative case related to bhikkhu is a secondary, we can say this is the basic explanation, destruction of moha, and also when you destruct the moha, all the akusala has been eradicated. So either you take the destruction of moha only and explain, or either as a result of the destruction of moha, all akusala is eradicated. Such a monk does not shake due to whatever objects whatever object comes to him. Yeah. So this is another point like when we come into explanation in commentary, so these kind of alternative explanation, it's a completely alternative explanation, or sometimes the second explanation is based on the first explanation. Here's a very good example. Because yeah, just referring to the mohakaya, or referring to the eradication of all the akusala due to mohakaya. It's also something we'd like to discuss. Yes. Now I think that this has been done. So if you have any questions about this.
Yes, Bante. So here, so the word cha connects the two words anawase sapahana and mohamulakata, right?
Yes, it's
Because they have the same case ending, ablative case.
no, I think this mohamulakata is connected to sabba akusala.
Yes, yeah, I understand that, but I mean the word cha
Yeah.
is to connect those two words in the ablative case, right?
Right. Yes.
So if that's the case, then we can say that the sabba kusalanang bahina sabba kusalo, can we say that also connect to both anawase sapahana and moha mulakata?
I think the cha is connected, like, you mean cha like mohasya anavasesa pahana cha moha mulakatha cha, something like that?
Yeah. Yes.
I think this cha is, what I see is, this is a one phrase, and this cha connects to the entire phrase, entire explanation. It says that it's another alternative explanation. So what is that alternative explanation? One is moha has been eradicated due to the eradication of moha, and then due to the eradication of moha, a monk who is, due to the eradication of moha, the akusalas, all the akusalas are eradicated, because all akusala are connected, have moha as root, and because of that, like, what I feel is this cha is, if we connect it with,
I understand that, but it's just because when we talk of Pali, when we use the ja to connect something, it looks to me that they have to be in the same case.
Yeah, so I mean two cases. So what I feel is this case and this, now it's not proper to connect. What I feel is, because this ablative case is connected to sabba kusalana. So if we connect both of them, I feel like grammatically something's little bit strange, because mohas anavasesas pahana cha moha mulakatta cha sabba kusalanam. Yeah, that is also.
But I think it's also possible, right? Because so the bhikkhu, the bhikkhu, all of the akusala are eradicated, right? Because two reasons. One of the reason is because of the completely eradication of the moha, and also because moha is the root.
Yeah. So then this anavasesa pahana. Now this, then something that we have to clarify is moha mulakatta sabba kusalanam pahina sabba kusalo bhikkhu. So is this anavasesa pahana connected to pahina sabba kusalo or bhikkhu only?
I think it should connect it to the pahina sabba kusalo, because the pahina sabba kusalo, that is the what is that?
Adjective of
samasa. Yeah, it's the Bahubihi samasa, right? It refers to the bhikkhu.
So it's like this. Mohas anavasesa pahana pahina sabba kusalo bhikkhu. Moha mulakatta cha sabba kusalanam pahina sabba kusalo bhikkhu. You mean like that?
Yes, that's what but I don't know if it's correct. But that's just because, as I said earlier, that from my understanding, when we use the ja to connect two words, they should be in the same case.
Then if we say, I still feel like this, better like this. Mohasa anavasesa pahana, pahina sabba kusalo bhikkhu. Okay. Mohasa anavasesa pahana, mohamula kathacha sabbha kusalanam, pahina sabbha kusalo bhikkhu. Like, just we say mohamula katta sabbha kusalanam, pahina sabbha kusalo, it doesn't show that. It says akusala is just based on moha and he has eradicated. So we have to bring this part also, I feel, to show that pahina sabbha kusalo, because this phrase only says because all akusala are rooted in moha, so a monk who has eradicated the all akusala. So it's mohasa anavasesa pahana, pahina sabbha kusalo bhikkhu. Then mohasa anavasesa pahana, mohal mula kattacha sabbha kusala nang pahina sabbha kusalo bhikkhu.
I see. Okay.
Because if we take just these two, just this part, it doesn't give the entire meaning, I feel. Because this says, because all akusalas have moha as the root. And
Oh, I see. What about
but the-
what about this, Bante? So
Yeah.
because here, so it's going to be the moha mulakata
Mhm.
sabba kusalanang. So sabba kusalanang, I think okay, so this is, I'm just talking, thinking out loud. So
Yeah, yeah.
sabba kusalanang, we can move it in the front of the moha mulakata.
Right,
Because
yes.
moha mulakata, right? So it's going to be the, all of the akusala of that bhikkhu are eradicated because of, moha is the mula of all of
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
right? Then you
Mhm.
don't need the anavasesa pahana.
We don't need, you mean.
Yeah, we don't.
But then how do we explain pahina sabbha kusalo?
Okay, got it. I see.
Yeah, to show that we have to bring, I feel.
Okay, I see.
Okay, so it's a point that is also not very completely clear to me also when you ask the question. I'll also discuss on this, and we have two things to discuss now. I will talk with my friend and have a more insights on this cha, as you said, and let discuss on the next class about these these two things, thadi and this cha.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
We can get the meaning, but what you're asking is exactly grammatically how should we understand, right?
Right. Bante.
Any other questions?
Bante,
Yes, Brother Robin.
I want to ask about the Lokadhamma, Bante, since you said
Okay.
that there is gain or loss. Sometimes it not depending on the karma, Bante. So does it mean that this Lokadhamma is also like one kind of force, just like the Satyakiriya that we discussed before? So this is one of the force in our world, like that, Bante.
Satyakiriya is something which happens when we say, right? Because of our utterance also have that, the main thing, the truth and our utterance, they have a certain effect to the phenomena. That is how we understand. Lokadhamma is, I would not call it a force, it's a natural phenomena we call. That's how it happens. I feel it's like the random doctrine, like these Lokadhammas are just random. It can happen, it may not happen. There can be reasons for that, like because of these weather conditions and so forth. But we cannot predict, I feel. We cannot predict how the Lokadhamma will occur into us. That's why I say it's a random thing. Karma is not random. Karma is because we have done certain things in the past. We are going to get effects, and a person like a Buddha would be able to predict this is going to happen due to the karma. But things like Lokadhamma, I feel it's just a natural phenomenon. Like rain can fall anytime, something like it has a natural phenomenon. So likewise, but rain is also a cycle. Like normally we can predict the seasons, but Lokadhamma is not even like that. it happens. It can happen due to many other reasons, like when the economy goes down, we lose something. So it's like people lost their jobs in pandemic. People lost a lot of money for their investments. These are not based on karma. These are based on the situation, the present situation we are encountering, most of the cases. So I feel likewise, Loka Dhamma is based on many other like natural conditions. So it happens like when the conditions come, it occurs. It's like a random process. We cannot predict likewise. So that's what I mean. It's not based on karma.
Okay, Bante. So like you mean like it's not intentional force like that. It's just the combination of many factors, right, Bante?
Yes. That's what I feel. That's what I feel. Like
okay, Bante.
I would not say this pandemic is caused by the karma of the people. Then it's too much for Buddhism. Like this is a natural phenomenon. Yeah, there can be some negligence, there can be some reasons. It's not the past karma. So when the pandemic comes, effects are there. So these are the effects of pandemic, we call, not because of the each and everyone who lost the job is due to this karma. So like yeah, it's a natural thing.
Yes, Bante. Actually, I'm not saying that this Loka Dhamma is like similar to karma, but I mean like, so right now we know that there are something outside the karma that can influence our life. For example, just like the power of the Satya Kiriya. So what I mean is that because this Loka Dhamma can affect our life, so should not it be like some kind of force that is outside the karma, Bante?
You can interpret it as a force because, but I feel like it's a phenomena. It occurs. It happens. It happens. So it affects our world. It affects our life. It's like weather. The raining, summer, the seasons. We don't call it a force, right? It's something that happens. So when the season changes, it affects our life. So likewise,
okay.
Is like
natural occurrence, Bante.
Happens, and it's not also like a karma force because of the conditions, because of the outside conditions change. We experience gain, loss, and all this. It's even if we say it's a phenomenon, it seems like too much. If you say it phenomenon, like it's like everyone is destined to get gain, everyone is destined to get praise and all. So even saying it as a phenomenon, like the weather conditions, it's also too much sometimes, I feel. It's better to say when the outside conditions change, the society changes, we have to experience these things due to the flux. So it's like something which happens, something that we encounter. Surely everyone will encounter this Loka Dhammas. So if, for instance, if the society is stable, for instance, like it's very stable, like the Devaval and so forth, this flux of Loka Dhamma will be very less. Very, very less. Like if the things are going as it is solidly for a long time, like we may get the same income again and again. So the experience of Loka Dhamma reduces. So, but you cannot completely be freed from that, because when a condition changes, the outcome changes. So like we have a lot of gain because of our company is working well. So then someone make a mistake, things go down. Another company comes up, we get the loss. So it's not if you say it's a phenomenon, you can call it a phenomenon. It's a natural thing happening. It's if we say it's phenomenon, it's become like fixed. Like we have to gain good and bad all the time. I think when the conditions change, we experience these Loka Dhammas. So why do we say it as a phenomenon? The changing of conditions is very natural in the world. It's very natural. It can happen very easily, the changing of conditions. So when we are running some company, someone builds up a new company more stronger than ours, so we lose our gain. So this loss of gain happen because of another condition. So as like the conditions are always in a flux, so the outcomes will always change. So it's better to say like this is something which happens to our. So we can say this is a phenomenon like this. Stability of conditions is natural in the world. We can call it one kind of a phenomenon. So it's better. It's not like, even if we say it's the weather cycle, it's much more fixed. But Loka Dhamma is not in such a category even. It's something that we experience, depends on the conditions. That's how I feel when I look into it.
Okay, Bante. Thank you very much, Bante, for the detailed explanation.
Andy?
Yes, Kali.
So when we say the Loka Dhamma is not depends on the Karma, it's just a natural phenomenon. But even when we face the same situation, but the person, they gain in a different way. Some people they gain, some people they lost. When we face the same situation, so how can we explain that? That is also because of nature phenomena, or it's because of their own karma?
It's a very tough question here, I would say. It's a very tough one. So actually, when I say Loka Dhamma and Karma, I didn't say Karma is completely out of this thing. It's all Loka Dhamma is not because of Karma. Like if you look into the stories, like Buddha had Ninda is he was reproached by others. So he mentioned this reproaching is due to this karma that I did in the past. So some Loka Dhamma is due to karma, for sure. Some Loka Dhamma is due to karma, but not all Loka Dhamma is due to karma. Then your question is, now when we encounter the same situation like the pandemic, right? So the pandemic, why some people have good still are better than others, even we are encountering the same condition. One reason is the karma. That's you are correct. Like two people, one has a very strong karma, one has a very weak karma. They are encountering the same situation. Like I give you a very nice example, simile, a story given in the commentary. You can refer to this commentary in the Vibhanga commentary. Vibhanga. Please go to the Jnana Vibhanga. Jnana Vibhanga. We have the 10 powers of Buddha, right? 10 powers of Buddha. The second power, Kamma, Samadhana, something like that. The second power. In this second power, under this second power, there are many stories given in the Vibhanga commentary. So Vibhanga, Abhidhamma. So there you find this story under Kala Vipatti, right? Kala Vipatti. So when the bad time occurs, how the past akusalas come forth and good akusalas get reduced. So according to the story, they were in a famine. You know, there was a great famine in Sri Lanka, which triggered the fourth council even. So during that time, only its story says 60 monks stayed in the island, others went away. Only 60 monks stayed. So out of the 60, there were like few special ones, like Arahants were there. So two friends, monk friends, Mahatheras, they were going for Pindapata. So there were nothing to eat. People were starving. Then they went to one house. One lady has prepared 3 the balls of leaves, like made out of leaves. They were made like balls, like a sweet. Then it's what's not sweet. It is made out of some leaves, not very tasty. Then there were 3 balls. So what happened? She offered one to the senior monk, second to the junior monk, and third was going to be offered to the senior monk again. So what happened? The junior monk had done lots of merits in the past life, that he had completed a duty called saraniya, like a monk, dana of monks. Like you can practice something called saraniya for 12 years. Like what you bring from Pindapata, you give complete to the monks, and you eat what is left after the monks have taken. So you have to practice this for 12 years. So that monk has practiced that. Then what happened? The lady was going to offer it to the Mahatera, senior one. Out of her conscious, the hand moved towards the younger one, and the ball, the football, went into his patta. Even the lady's hand was unconsciously moved to that. So Mahatera saw this, and he knew about this phenomenon, like his strong karma. Even during this famine, he was having such benefits. So he said, if your kusala is giving results, even in this manner during a famine, how much results you would get during a prosperous time? The monk just uttered, they were arahants. So then the junior monk was a little bit ashamed to accept the food, because it was supposed to go to the Mahatera. Because of his punya, it went to him, his pota. Then the Mahatera said, no, you should eat it. You're married. Then, so this shows that, as you said, even during the same condition, under the same condition, different people have different experiences. So most of the cases in such, according to Buddhism, in such cases, we attribute it to the karma. We attribute this quality to the karma. Then what happens? I'm leading the discussion to another dimension, which can also, now, if we say this under the same condition, two people have two different experiences. Why is that? We can say one reason is karma. One has a strong karma, strong kusala karma or kusala karma. So we have different experience. So then we also have the random doctrine, randomness. What does it mean? Now think about four people were thrown away from a traveling bus, for instance. So they all fell down, but one person accidentally rolled more and his head was hit on a rock, while the other three, they were all pushed in the same place, the same manner, but one person went and they all went down, and one person got hit on a rock and he died. So we would say, according to the Buddhist doctrine, sometimes we are bold enough to say that that person had a karma. So that's why all the other were saved and this person got hit on the rock. That's the normal explanation that we hear. Now you can apply this. Now this is something that I'm bringing a counter argument for this doctrine of karma. This is another way of thinking. Now think about some watermelons who are in a truck, and they all we threw 4 or 5 or 10 watermelons out of the truck. Only when they were put away, 2 watermelons or 1 watermelon got in and hit on the same rock and it got crushed, while the other watermelons didn't experience such a thing. In that case, we are not going to say that watermelon had a karma. Why it got hit on the rock and got crushed? Because of the angle or somewhere, whatever it is, because of its velocity or something, because of the way it bounced on the earth, so it got hit on the rock. So in that case, it's a random incident. We are not going to say it's the karma of the watermelon. So likewise, so when we say under the same circumstances, one person experienced, now that one person got rolled and hit on the rock and he died, others were saved, we tend to say it's karma, but it also shows that there can be just a random incident. It can be just a random incident. So then someone can ask, so what is the effect of karma? Is the karma is not there? No, karma is there according to Buddhism, and you can experience it by yourself. You can get rid of the doubts. So personally, as a Buddhist monk, how do I explain this is, so it's very difficult to say when something happens, whether it happened randomly or whether it happened due to karma. Both the possibilities are still there. Both the possibilities are still there. So in some cases, because randomness can happen, may not happen, may happen, may not happen in the randomness. But what happens is, randomness, I think it always has a possibility, right? Probability. I think in maths, you can count the probability. So that probability is with everyone who was thrown away from the cart. So if that was the karma, I'm not saying, I'm using a word if that was the karma, that man got hit on the rock and died, the karma was ruling the incident, and it made sure that person was thrown or fell down in an angle which would cause it to go and hit on the rock and die. So even then someone can ask, can it happen without the karma? My personal idea is, yes, it is possible. It can happen. Just a random incident, one can die. It is possible. But if there was a karma makes sure that he is not thrown into another position. He's exactly put into that position and he goes and dies. So the probability becomes little bit closer to the fixedness. Fixed means it's going to happen. It's not a probable thing. It's going to happen if the karma is very strong. No one can remove it. It becomes fixed in that moment. So likewise, so I brought the discussion into something else, because as you asked the question, Sally asked the question, under same circumstances, when two people are experiencing two differently, so my answer is either it can be karma, that's how we interpret it, but we should not be in a haste to say that it's always due to karma, because the randomness can also affect, as far as I see.
So Bandi,
Yeah.
can we say if according to this explanation, that means there's something is beyond the karma?
I think
We cannot say it's
yeah.
Sorry.
I feel like it's not proper to explain everything based on karma in such cases.
So in that, we needed to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I say it's a tough question. It's a tough question, and it's also, for some it can affect the faith, and sometimes it can be really disturbing to some. I don't think it happens to this audience, but because what I was saying is I'm challenging the base of karma. I'm challenging the base of karma by giving a not inanimate example, but still I am with the karma. So I'm still, what I want to say is, so we tend to attribute things to karma very easily. So it should not be done, because there can be other possibilities. So that's what my argument was. Should not be explained only based on karma, even under such situations when we have two different experiences. It can be karma, sure, it can be karma, there's no doubt in it, but it can also be something which happened due to natural order.
And then,
yes,
may I have my opinion on the discussion we are discussing right now about
right, sure.
karma and the random and the randomness.
Yeah.
I just want to speak my opinion. Okay.
Sure.
You make me relate to the Patana, the 24 causal relationship. Okay. In one of the 24, karma is one of it. So
Yeah.
if we say everything is karma, so we left out all the remaining 23 causal relationship.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
probably, I mean, your opinion, I think is probably has a very good base, Fante. What you're saying is make me realize that, okay, what about the 24 Patana? Because they have causal relationship. You say, hey to Batiyo, Aramana Batiyo, all these things. And Karma Batiyo is only one of the 24.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. So if we say everything is karma, So that means we seem like we don't consider the other 23 paccaya condition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you for raising this point. And yeah, that's all. Only my opinion. Bhante.
Okay, thank you for your opinion, Sadhu. And also this 24 Pachaya, this case, like according to what the tradition says, especially Lady Sayadaw suggests that this 24 Pachaya doesn't like, it also doesn't include all the conditioned realities, conditionality in the world. Like this is 24 Pachaya is the direct causes for the Nama and Rupa, as the Buddha explained. For example, according to Patthana, we cannot explain the causal relationship of Utuja Rupa. How Tejo Dhatu produce Utuja Rupa cannot be explained based on 24 Pachayas. So I'm extending that further. So 24 Pachayas is also a part of the conditional relationships. Not all. So when we extend, the conditional relationships are direct causes, cause and effects for Nama and Rupa, and also not to all Nama and Rupa, not all the causal conditions are explained. So then, so there are things beyond these 24 conditions, even like natural phenomena, things that happen to the inanimate things. If we can predict the inanimate things, the happening of inanimate things. So these all shows that there are some other causal conditions as well. So karma is just a part of it. Karma is just a part of it. But it plays a huge role in our lives. We have to we accept it. It has a huge role in our lives. But we have to think about other probabilities also. So that's why we personally, what I feel is when we analyze a situation, we have to think beyond karma also and try to understand it. So in the end, what happened is we are not giving a definite answer. That's it. So then we are giving the probabilities. So only a person with the psychic abilities is able to confirm whether it was karma or whether it was just an incident.
Hi, Bhante.
Yes.
Yeah, so when we say that something happens because of the karma, we mean in normal sense, and we mean that karma causes that to happen. But then from my understanding is that for a certain person, for a certain being, there are a lot of good and bad karmas in the past waiting for suitable conditions to give the result, right?
Yeah.
So maybe at some particular instance, we cannot say that karma is the cause for that person to, receive a good or a bad experience. But we have to agree that whatever that person experienced that at that moment, it has to be the result of a certain karma, right?
You mean the consciousness?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the feeling that it has to be the result of a certain karma in the past.
Yeah.
It cannot, just come out of nowhere. It has to be the result of something in the past, some karma in the past. So can we say that when we say something, when we say that that one is because of karma, then maybe it's not because that karma caused that to happen, but that whatever that person experienced, it has to be the result of the karma.
Yes. Yeah, it's another very important point. Like I think everyone heard this, like what Dr. Ryan is saying. Like if we are saying that incidents happen, so when we are experience these incidences, we experience the 5 sense doors. So those 5 sense doors have always Chakku Vijnana, Sota Vijnana, and so forth. And in that viti, we have Kusala Vipaka and Akusala Vipaka. So we cannot deny the fact that our experience, according to Abhidhamma, our experience is directly related with karma. So then we have to divide it, like into two categories. So there the incident happens and we experience it. For an instant, we go to a very beautiful place, like a very wonderful mountain, highland, maybe outside like a foreign country somewhere. So we see a wonderful picture. We go there. So this kusala vipaka chakku viññāna is rising into us, in us. So while we walk, we see a very handsome or beautiful person walking in front of us. So at that time, we get kusala vipaka chakku viññāna. So always when an incident happens, our experience is related with kamma. So then we have to divide the two things, the experience and the incident. Experience and the incident. Some kammas in the past have the ability to create the incident and also to give the experience. Like experience is always a kamma vipaka. So it creates the incident, it causes the incident, and then the viññāna arises. Sometimes like if we had a kamma, for instance, just a simile, we had a kamma to be stuck in a cave. So when we went in, suddenly a rock falls from up and it obstructs the door. So if it was a strong kamma, we can say our kamma triggered the falling of the rock, and so we were stuck in there. And whatever bad experiences, like the painful things that we had to experience, is caused by that kamma, we can say. So some cases the kamma causes the incident to happen and also gives us the experience. In some other cases, the incident happens due to something else. It's because of random thing. It's the natural phenomenon. But we experience what happens. For instance, a beautiful person goes in front of us. That person didn't become beautiful because of this. So we have kusala vipaka chakku viññāna. That's obvious. The experience is always related to kamma. So that person didn't become beautiful because of our kamma. That person didn't go in front of us, or we went from that place, not because of my kamma. So it's just a random incident happens. So this random incident facilitates a past kamma to give result. So we have to divide it, the incident and the experience. So some kammas cause the incident and bring the experience. Sometimes incident happen naturally. It's due to some other causes, and it gives the opportunity for a kamma to give the experience, another kamma. So whenever Lady Sayadaw Paramata Dipani suggests that there are two types of kamma. Now I'm explaining it based on the kamma point of view. Before we explain it, experience as the incident. Certain kammas cause the incident and the experience. Both, some kammas cause the incident and doesn't cause the incident. Incident happen naturally. Experience happens due to kamma. And also there can be a mixture of this. For instance, a mixture. Now think about a person. This thing is what what I'm going to explain is what I personally believe based on the knowledge. Now think some person is dying with a sickness. That person needs a particular medicine which would save his life, and that is very bitter. It's very difficult to consume. So now we think most of the people who get this sickness are not able to find this medicine, but this person has done lots of merits of saving others in past lives. So due to his kamma, he gets the medicine. So this incident of getting the medicine was triggered by his past kamma. Maybe someone came there with the medicine, he was able to reach the medicine, not like others, his journey was not obstructed, he could reach there and easily he could find, which others could not. So it shows that maybe he had a very strong good kusala kamma to get the medicine. So this medicine he earned because of his past kusala. But when he experiences this, when he drinks this medicine, he gets a very bitter taste. So that moment, his experience was caused by a past akusala, because we say an unpleasant object is felt by a akusala vipaka citta. So even this incident and experience becomes more complicated. Sometimes incident was caused by a kusala kamma, so that's why he was saved. But while he is experiencing, not the same kamma as given the experience, because a kusala kamma can never give a akusala vipaka jiva vinyana, which experience a bitter object. So at that moment, akusala kamma is function for the experience. So then we come into the fundamentals are kammas can cause the incident and give the experience, and sometimes in this occasion, one kamma gives the it causes the incident, and a dissimilar kamma may give an experience in that same place. So what in that such scenario, the causing the incident is the main thing. Causing the incidents is the main thing, because we never say he got the medicine because of akusala kamma. Though it's bitter, his life was saved. Then some type of kamma is not causing the incident, like a beautiful person walking in front of me. Incident happens naturally. It gave the opportunity for a kamma, for a good kamma vipaka to give results. If the person is ugly or it's a bad object, the same thing happens. Other akusala kamma gives the experience. Then the Venerable Lady Sayadaw comes to explain the two types of kamma. So he says some kamma gets the opportunity by itself and gives results. It means it causes everything and it creates the environment, and it is very difficult to prevent it. It's very difficult to prevent it. So the situation is created by the kamma, the experience is created by the kamma. So it's very difficult hard to prevent. So some kammas, when the conditions gather because of some other reasons, a beautiful person walked in front of me, or I happened to go I was going towards a different conference, but I happened to walk by a beautiful mountain. So when the conditions gather, past kammas gets the opportunity to give the result. So if the conditions are pleasant, that's the opportunity, the door opening for a kusala kamma to give the experience. If the unpleasant conditions gather, akusala kamma vipaka to give the experience. So likewise, as you said, always experience is caused by the kamma. We cannot deny it. So, but how the incident occurs, the happening occurs, I think we have to explain it more detailedly. So what I was mentioning was the incident, not the experience. Experience part, there's no doubt about it. The incident can be caused due to kamma and may happen not due to kamma either.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bhante, because because you brought this up. So I know this is like limited knowledge, but from my understanding is that, so we know that kamma is nama, right?
Yeah.
And then from my understanding is that nama can only give nama. It can give results as nama.
Yeah.
Right. So and then how are we going to explain the situation you mentioned that, kamma create the incident? The incident sometimes is like the rupa thing. So what is the mechanism, Bhante?
Yeah. So this is what we study in 4 types of functions of kamma. 4 types of functions. So according to Janaka function, that is the main function we call, kamma can give vipaka as a result, nama, and also it can produce rupa, kamaja rupa. But vipaka is only for nama to nama. Kamaja rupa is a production. Then we have upathambaka, upapilaka, and upaghataka. So upathambaka, upapilaka, upaghataka means supporting a life, disturbing a life, and also destructing a life. So then in these cases, supporting, disturbing, and destructing cannot be explained based on Janaka function. That's why we mentioned, if we get a very healthy medicine to our lives, we attribute it to kamma. So it's a very strange phenomenon. How it happens, I'm unable to, I don't think the Dhamma has explanations on this. What the book says, it causes the incident. It makes you to find the medicine. It facilitates the environment. So then what happens, we go into another discussion. It's according to that, the kamma has an effect in our lives, in others' lives, sometimes to the environment, especially to the animals whom we possess. All can be found in the information in the literature. So it's a nama dhamma, but it has some power to influence the rupa, to influence the, even it says in some suttas, when we have strong kamma, the dairy products, number of dairy products increase in other animals, our animals. So it's a very strange phenomenon. So then, according to, we are unable to explain how it happens. What the fundamental we formulate is, the kamma has such an effect according to the literature. So that's why someone become healthier, the body become more stronger and live longer. So it's all effects the kamma, affects the rupa. And also it says someone who has done, it says when the Bodhisattva was born, not only to him, in the entire kingdom, the number of crops increased. So these are all attributed to his karma. So as you asked the question, yeah, it's a very strange phenomenon, and we attribute it to Upathambaka, Upapilaka, and Upaghataka categories, like, which is not a direct resulting of Vipaka, Chitta, Chetasika, and Kammajarupa. It comes into another aspect of the resulting of karma, like causing incidents, causing things to happen, even increasing the number of dairy products and also the crops. To that extent, it has happened.
Okay, thank you so much, Bhante.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
May I double check about the Lokadhamma?
Hello.
Hello. May I double check with you about the Lokadhamma?
Yes.
Firstly, from the discussion.
Make the last question. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Please.
According to the discussion, is it safe to say that the Kamma Pacaya in Patthana and the Kamma Niyama are two different things? Is that okay to say that?
Like Kamma Pacaya is included in Kamma Niyama. Correct.
So they're not.
Included in Kamma. Kamma Pacaya doesn't cover the entire Kamma Niyama. Okay,
thank you. And also the second point is that out of the, assuming that there are only 5 niyama, is it safe to say that this Lokadhamma can be expressed in terms of Kamma Niyama, Utup Niyama, and Dhamma Niyama only? The other two doesn't have anything to do with it. Is it okay to say that? Or?
Yes. Dhamma, yeah, that's the thing. Now I'm a little bit not confident on this in the answer. So, putting Loka Dhamma in Dhamma Niyama, it seems okay, but at the same time, that's why I was reluctant to say it as a phenomenon. I would like to know the others' opinion also on this. What I feel is Dhamma Niyama is something which happens due to the conditions, like the gain and all things increase and decrease when the outside conditions change. So Dhamma Niyama is like this. Now, Avijja Kosa Sankhara is a Dhamma Niyama. So whatever, now I'll give you an explanation on Dhamma Niyama first. Like according to Lady Sayadaw, there is only one, all the Niyama can be put into Dhamma Niyama. All the Niyama can be called Dhamma Niyama. But what happened, some Niyama was specifically mentioned as Utu, some as Kamma, Chitta, and Bija. So out of the lot, the commentators put out 4 Niyamas, and the remaining still remain, all the other remains in the Dhamma Niyama. So all the other Niyamas are in Dhamma Niyama, whatever it is. So if Loka Dhamma is a Niyama, it goes into Dhamma Niyama, not into Utu Niyama. Utu Niyama is the weather cycle, how it happens one after another. So all the other Niyamas, other than the 4, should be in Dhamma Niyama. So then we have to understand whether the Dhamma or Loka Dhamma can be included in Dhamma Niyama or not. Dhamma Niyama like this. When a Bodhisattva is born, the world shakes. Bodhisattva is born, the mother dies in 7 days, right? So that's the rule. Then according to the literature, according to our commentaries, when the Bodhisattva was looking for a mother, he looked for a mother who has 10 months and 7 days lifespan is left. So it seems like he has chosen her. So then the Dhammaniyama should be that a mother who is destined to be a mother of a Bodhisattva should be living exactly something 40 plus years or 50 something years. So only then her lifespan cannot be extended. So maybe the Dhammaniyama should be more attributed to her lifespan. Then likewise, Dhammaniyama is like when the Bodhisattva, Buddha preaches the Dhamma, the earth shakes, a certain kind of brightness appears in the world. These are all in Dhammaniyama. And if we say you jump up, you fall down because of whatever reason, this is also should be included in Dhammaniyama. Whatever arises is conditioned to passing away. These are all whatever phenomena is Dhammaniyama. So in that case, if we bring Loka Dhamma into Dhammaniyama, what we have to say is everyone who is born would experience all these Loka Dhamma at whatever point in the life.
Mhm.
So if we can say like that, yeah, it seems like a Dhammaniyama, but I'm still a little bit confused with my, not confident with my own answer, because what I see is when the conditions are in a flux, these Loka Dhammas we start to experience. So these all happen because of the flux of the conditions. And this flux happens because of many other reasons, because of Utu, because of the mind ideas of other people and all these. So these, therefore, if you put it into Dhammaniyama, we can put it as it's a niyama, it's a phenomenon that everyone would experience Loka Dhammas one day or another, right? But also I would like to say, even though I give it as an answer, I'm also thinking in myself, can we put it as a niyama or not? Because such ideas are coming. Yeah.
So can I conclude like this? The fact that everybody who is born has to experience Loka Dhamma belongs to the Dhammaniyama. But the Loka Dhamma itself, because of its unpredictability or its randomness,
Yeah.
Can happen according to its own nature. And that is that okay to say that?
Yes, we can say as a Dhammaniyama, everyone experienced the Loka Dhammas, everyone experienced the Loka Dhamma. But yeah, I think you got the point. Like it's some kind of because when we say as a Dhammaniyama, there is kind of a order, like it can be predicted or something like that, right? Niyama is like it's like a rule, it's like a law. So then we have to have a general law. Whoever is born will experience this one day. But when we try to make it a law, I think we can predict it. We should be able to predict it. So Loka Dhamma, I don't think it's able to predict, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's why I'm sorry for that. I'm not unable to give a definite answer. That's how I feel. If you want to make it a Loka Dhamma, I think the statement should be everyone who is born would experience Loka Dhamma. This is the Dhammaniyama.
Okay.
That's how it would be, right? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. So do you think there should be like, because Loka Dhamma composed of as I remember, it composed of 8 things and like 4 duets, like opposite pairs, like that. So
Yeah,
is that
of course.
also a kind of patterns of this Loka Dhamma? So when you
No,
experience
that's
something,
right. No. It's not a pattern actually. That's right. It's not a pattern. It's something randomly happens.
I see. Okay.
That's
Yes,
why I
yes.
was reluctant to put it into Niyama.
I see. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, can I just add a comment, something short comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we in fact there is a branch of mathematics. They also study the randomness, and and also they trying to find patterns of randomness. So in fact, when we say randomness, there are rules. There are rules for randomness as well. So in a sense,
Yeah.
we can say that we can predict the randomness.
Okay. So there is a rule for randomness even.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll be really grateful if you can, if I can share me some information about this? We'd like to read about it.
Oh, okay, sure, Bante. I'll
Yeah.
look it up.
Okay, thank you. It's a very nice philosophical topic. Okay, thank you for that. So I think we'll call it a day. It's already 11 to Myanmar.
Okay, thank you so much, Bande.
Okay,
So
thank
I
you,
hope
Bante.
all of you are safe in Myanmar, right?
In our university is okay.
Back to my diamond,
But I heard from 14th to 28th